Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the last big releases of the year from Armaf, Club de Nuit Lionheart Man. Yeah, take a look at that whole new presentation thing going on here. We'll get into that in a second. So obviously, as I said, the newest in the Club de Nuit line, which is one of the biggest, most popular cologne fragrance lines in the world. Of course, there's the original Club de Nuit Intense Man, which is probably the most popular Aventus cologne out there. And it seems like, especially here recently, that Armaf has tried to pop out at least a couple of these each year. They barely got this one in right before the end of 2024. Also, I want to make you guys aware, a little bit later in this video, my clothes will change. It's not magic, I just screwed up. Yeah, the first time that I filmed this video, the first like 3-4 minutes that I filmed, I didn't have my audio on. So I just wanted to let you guys know that when I change clothes, it's because I had to reshoot this first part of the video. Go me. Let's kick things off, guys, by taking a look at this presentation, which is a little upgrade, a little boosterino versus the older ones. First off, the box. So you'll see here it's a bit of a higher end Club de Nuit box compared to the original releases and frankly every other release outside of the limited edition Club de Nuit Intense Man release. On the front, you have the name of the fragrance, you have the name of the house, the size and concentration. And notice one big change right there in the size. It's a 100 ml. And what you may say is like, okay, 100 ml. Like, why does that matter? Well, because it's different. Here is Club de Nuit Iconic Man, and you'll see right down here, 105 milliliters. Here is Club de Nuit Milestone, and if you look right here on the bottom, 105 milliliters. So basically, Armaf has finally decided, let's just go ahead and do 100 mils like everybody else. Now, the bottles look just about the same. The dimensions are very slightly different, but it is 5 milliliters less, 5 milliliters short versus all the other Club de Nuit fragrances that came before. And if you do these back to back, it's a little bit difficult to see, but the older bottle right here, Iconic, is ever so slightly wider, it would appear, than the new one. Anyway, back to the box. On top of the box, you have the Armaf logo. Also have an Armaf logo on another side of the box. On the opposite side, it says Club de Nuit. On the bottom, you have your badge code, your ingredients, and your barcode. And then on the back of the box, you have your sticker of authenticity with a little QR code as well. Since it's a new, slightly nicer, improved presentation, the box opens differently. This is one that you take apart like so. And then your bottle sits right inside here, even has a little pull tab so you can pop that bottle out easily. And to me, it does look noticeably better. It feels good, it feels sturdy. It doesn't feel like cheap cardboard that's gonna tear apart or anything like that. And here we've got the bottle, which also feels good in the hand, very heavy. And actually, even though it's a whole 5 milliliters less, it feels a little heavier in the hand than the old bottles. You could put part of that down to probably this oversized lion medallion on the front, but still, feels heavy, feels good. And here we have the bottle itself. You have on the front the name of the fragrance, the name of the house, Armaf right there on the lion medallion, and the bottle has kind of a wood grain aesthetic to it. So it looks like a wood grain running up and down, kind of a copper color scheme to that, black and copper. You have Club de Nuit on one side of the bottle. On the bottom, you have a sticker and your badge code, which is printed on the bottle. Then we have the cap done in your typical Club de Nuit style with a couple of crystals on each side. And for some reason, it is done up in a snakeskin pattern. Not exactly following the whole design scheme here outside of they probably just looked at it and went, yeah, that looks cool. Put that on there. So it's a Lionheart. What makes me think wood? Yeah, wood. Make the bottle look like wood. And then what else is Lionheart? Snakes. Yeah, snakes. Cool. So we have gold, snakeskin, crystal, wood, Lionheart. Nice. Let's go ahead and blast out a couple sprays here, guys. Here we go. Actually, let's do 3. So there we have the presentation, the step up in terms of the box, and also the bottle looks really good too, even if it has some funny design choices to it. Still looks pretty good. all things considered. So let's get into the fragrance itself. How does it smell? What does it smell similar to? Well, this is a clone, or inspired by, whatever you want to say, of Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Male Elixir. And it's really obvious as soon as you spray this on. If you're familiar with this, you'll know what this is. And it's a little late to the party because Grandeur has a clone of Le Male Elixir, Rayhan has Rayhan Elixir, which is a clone of this, and Lattafa has the Kingdom. So it's not the first one to get out an alternative to Le Male Elixir. The question is, at this point, is it the best one? And we'll dig into that a little bit as we go. Now, as I said, price-wise, this is about 40 bucks right now. I would assume as time goes on, that probably drops a little bit. The Kingdom over here is about 30. You can get it maybe a couple bucks under that. So it is roughly 33% more than the Lattafa as of right now. Go ahead and do a couple sprays of Le Male Elixir right there. Just put that to the side and spray this one out as well. In terms of note breakdown, Club de Nuit Lionheart Man is actually pretty much the exact same as Le Male Elixir, so they didn't really try to hide it at all as far as the note breakdown goes. Lavender and mint off the top, benzoin and vanilla in the mid, and then in the base, honey, tonka, and tobacco. So like I said, it's pretty much the exact same note breakdown. I will say off a tester strip, which doesn't matter as far as actually wearing it, but off a tester strip, when you spray these three on, I do think that the Club de Nuit is a little bit closer overall to Le Male Elixir. Off skin, there are differences. So the first difference, which is the most noticeable one, is in the opening. And a lot of times with clone fragrances, that's where the difference is more pronounced, is when you first spray it on, and then as they dry down, they get a lot closer together. That does happen with these. So I'll go ahead and spray this one on over here and spray this one on just right there. Off the top, Club de Nuit Lionheart is definitely more aromatic. So that mint, that comes through much more clearly in Club de Nuit Lionheart. Also the lavender in there comes through clearer here. Whereas Le Male Elixir starts off right away with that deep sweetness, that benzoin, vanilla, tobacco, tonka kind of mixture. You know, that honeyed sweetness that also has that depth that kind of carries over from Le Male Le Parfum. You get that in Le Male Elixir as soon as you spray it on. And you've got that underlying sweetness here too in Club de Nuit Lionheart, but you get a lot more of that mint. So it's fresher, not quite as deep, not quite as sweet when you first spray it on. In comparison, Lattafa's The Kingdom also has a little bit more of that mint, but less so than Lionheart. And it leans into the sweet side of things quicker, Lattafa The Kingdom does, at least in comparison to the Armaf. So if you're looking for more of that sweet aspect, more of like a slightly sugary aspect to it, you're gonna get more of that from the Kingdom than you are Lionheart. As these dry down, they do all get more similar, they get closer together. The quality of both of these clones is really, really high for the price point. And realistically, you're not gonna go wrong with either one of these. So it's really gonna be dependent more on what your personal taste is as to which one of these you like more. But getting back into it, as these dry down, they get closer together. The opening side by side, you can tell which is which. I will say though, when I first sprayed this on, I wasn't wearing it side by side with either of these fragrances. It was just by itself. And the first thing I thought was, oh, that's Le Male Elixir. It is spot on. So it's one of those deals where it reminds you enough of it that you think, oh yeah, it's about as close to the fragrance as you can get, until you do the side by side comparison. And then you go, oh, a little bit different. And I do think that for me personally, between these two clones, the Kingdom and Lionheart, that in the opening, the initial opening, I like the Lattafa more. I think that it smells a little bit nicer because it leans into that sweetness more. And with Le Male Elixir, an alternative to that, that's kind of what I want. It doesn't quite have the same depth to it as Le Male Elixir, but for the price point, it is crazy stupid good. One part that I really like about Lionheart Man is actually through the mid. It takes on almost like a caramel aspect to it. So the sweetness isn't the exact same as Le Male Elixir. It's a lot closer than in the opening, but it has more of a caramel aspect to it, like this deeper, almost slightly sticky, chewy sweetness to it when you compare it to Lattafa's The Kingdom, which has a little more of a sugary scent profile heading through the mid in comparison. And that gives Club de Nuit Lionheart, man, this deeper overall scent profile when you compare it to The Kingdom. And so if you don't mind it not being quite as sweet as The Kingdom, then Lionheart might work better for you if you like having that deeper overall scent profile that Le Male Elixir has. So I guess one way you could think of it is that Lionheart comes across ever so slightly more elegant overall when you compare it to The Kingdom and how they approach that Le Male Elixir sweetness. But what happens with Lionheart in the Drydown that doesn't happen as much for me with Lattafa's The Kingdom is it gets that sort of Tonka vibe that Le Male Elixir has really, really close. So in this one, Le Male Elixir, as it dries down, you pick up a little bit of that tobacco, but it's never like the star of the show. It's not this, you know, fruity, super sweet pipe tobacco that some fragrances have. It's kind of lingering in the background with the Tonka a little bit. Has a really nice depth, almost like hay-like to an extent, but in a very pleasant way. And then you have that lightly powdery vanilla over everything. And it creates this great depth of sweetness. So it doesn't come across as just like super sugary or overly bubblegummy or something, right? Like it's got some oomph to it. And Lionheart gets a little closer to that as it dries down. It's still, in my opinion, not as sweet in the way that it comes across that Elixir is, but it has that feeling of depth that Elixir has a bit more. Whereas Lattafa's The Kingdom has more of the sweet aspects of the fragrance, but it's not quite as robust the way that it comes across. It's a little more like higher tinged, right? So this one is a little bit more like the base is kind of pumping out, whereas this one is more like top and mid end, and then the base isn't quite as forceful. And it would be great if one of these was just heads and tails better than the other, but both are really, really well done. I think that overall the presentation looks a little better over here on the Armaf. Some people would prefer The Kingdom. Both of them are blinged out, obviously, but this one does feel really substantial in the hand. It feels good quality and overall looks a step up from the other Club de Nuit fragrances that came out before it. And at the end of the day, the difference between this and this, as of right now, you know, about 10 bucks, so not really a massive difference. If you're gonna go absolute best bang for your buck, bottom dollar, then the Lattafa is the way to go. If you want the one that is sweeter overall, the Lattafa is the one that you wanna go with. If you would like something that's a little bit more mint forward, especially in the opening, a little more aromatic, not quite as sugary sweet, more of like that deeper sweetness, then Lionheart is the one you wanna go with. Both of them smell fantastic. Both at the end of the day are amazing bangs for your buck. It's what you would expect from Armaf and Lattafa. Performance. Good, really good, which again, kind of what you expect from Club de Nuit. Lasts a long time. The projection is really good initially, then it starts to settle down a little bit closer to the skin, still well above average, but the longevity is really the sticking point here. It's well done. And interestingly enough, I actually filmed a review for this one, which as of this video is not out yet. And I didn't have this when I filmed a review for this. And at the time I filmed the review, I was like, oh, this is the best one. This is the one to get. And now this is out and I'm filming this review and it's like, well, now it's dependent on what you actually want from the fragrance as to which one is better. And for me, it's kind of dependent on the day. Like one day I would probably think this is better. Another day, if I wanted something a little more, like I said, sugary sweet, might go for this. Not that it's overly sugary sweet, it's just more so than that. And I do think that with this step up in presentation that they probably stepped up the quality a little bit as well. At least that's how it smells to me, because the quality here is really, really, really something nice. I'm a massive fan of Le Male Elixir, and I still say that if you can afford this one, if you can scoop it up, get this one. But if you want to save some money, or maybe you already have this, but you don't want to wear it all the time, you want something similar to it that costs a lot less, these right here, these are going to be the ones to get. I do think both of these are clearly better than Rayhan Elixir. They both last longer, they smell higher quality. I also think they're clearly better than the Grandeur one that I have, which is the first Le Male Elixir clone I got, which at the time I thought was really good, but these are just like, yeah, I mean, Off a strip, this is closer, but a strip doesn't matter. So there we go, guys. Club de Nuit, Lionheart, man. In the opening between these two, the top of the kingdom is closer to Le Male Elixir. In the dry down, the far dry down, Lionheart, man, is closer than the kingdom. In the mid, they both do things similarly to Le Male Elixir, just with a different take on the fragrance, you know, things adjusted slightly. So there we go, guys. Lionheart, man, a great release if you're looking for a Le Male Elixir clone. If this had come out first, oof, but it's coming out like last, so it's got to make up a lot of ground. Is it that much better than everything else that it crushes them all and makes up all that ground? I don't think so. But it is one of the absolute best alternatives to this one that you can get. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.